So here's the thing about TikTok, right? I feel like
TikTok is officially banned here in the US.
TikTok is back after being banned in the US for about 15 hours from overnight.
But all that chaos is on TikTok. This is YouTube. There's no way this could ever affect the Dungeons and Dragons / role-playing game videos that we enjoy over here. Right? So I'm Bob. This is where we learn how to have more fun playing RPGs together, and we can't do this without public online spaces. And we're definitely not getting into the politics of why it would be right or wrong to wall off entire chunks of the internet, or to just not enforce a law that the branches of government agreed upon. Nor will we bother speculating what's going to happen next, because as of recording, nobody knows what's really going to happen for TikTok, its viewers, or its creators, or what precedent this sets for other social media platforms like YouTube going forward. We're talking about how this unprecedented story dovetails with recent discussions of D&D content creators quitting, how algorithms are changing, how this is kind of vaguely reminiscent of the D&D licensing controversy from a couple years ago, and it's not just me blabbing. We're gonna hear from some short-form RPG creators you may know about how losing TikTok impacts them and you and me, even as people who mostly enjoy videos about role-playing games on YouTube. So if you don't know, this is Guy from How to Be a Great GM, one of the first notable RPG creators on YouTube. I watched his channel for years, and a couple weeks ago, he announced that it's over. He explained a number of reasons, but the one that stood out to a lot of viewers and fellow creators was his point about the YouTube algorithm and about discussing it with representatives from YouTube.
Said to me, right, your channel is going to be shunted off into oblivion, which is where so many channels disappear too that we don't remember. So your channel's being shunted off. It will still remain on YouTube, and it will still be accessible and still be able to be found, but it will no longer be presented to new folks. That's basically the bottom line.
So if we take him at his word, that's very weird, and in any case, it stinks. The almighty YouTube algorithm is a fickle beast, but in my survivor-biased experience, it is not very mysterious or malicious as long as you play by the rules. Rules everybody knows, because there are countless gurus and courses, both free and paid, on how to do these things. Design eye-catching thumbnails. Write curiosity-piquing titles. Hone your craft as a speaker and/or video editor to captivate your audience for the duration of your video. Focus on topics you are passionate about, but be aware of your audience's shifting interest. Burn your monthly sacrificial pledge to Google. A lot of people forget that one. Stay on top of how the platform changes, and most importantly, always thank your supporters on Patreon, because they're the ones who really make it all possible. Thank you, patrons. I love you. If you do those things and do them well, you are likely to grow and maintain a community of cool people on YouTube, TikTok, whatever. Or are you? Like I said, survivor bias. We'll never know all the stories of everyone who tried. Therefore, we can never really know how many people played by those rules but didn't make it or couldn't sustain it year after year. Maybe due to their own situation, maybe the whims of the algorithm, or because luck just wasn't on their side. Later on, I'll share my thoughts on luck and why absolutely no D&D, YouTube, or TikTok creator can claim to have single-handedly pulled themselves up by their bootstraps. But for now, let's hear a different take on algorithms and the real value of TikTok versus YouTube.
So here's the thing about TikTok, right? I've had like hundreds of millions of views on TikTok over the last nearly 4 years. I went on today to see how much money I'd earned ever, and it was less than £300.
For reference, that's like $370 US for years of work, hundreds of millions of views. So what is the real value of TikTok? Apparently, the algorithm.
So when I made my first video on YouTube, I think it got like 10 views. But my first video on TikTok, the same video got 100,000. And on seeing that it got 100,000, it was like, oh man, there's something here that could actually be something pursuing. Like some people enjoy this. That's the real shame if TikTok went away, is that the amount of creators who wouldn't have that initial platform where they have a fair shot, because YouTube is horribly unfair. It's completely...
It sounds like creators, and by extension, the millions of people who enjoy their collective videos, really benefit from the more even playing field of the TikTok algorithm, and Will was not the only person who felt this way, not by a long shot.
All of the other algorithms out there, they require me to use rage bait to build an audience, and I despise having to do that. The community on TikTok is able to just come together over a shared hobby that we all enjoy and find one another in our joy rather than in our anger.
Wait a minute. An algorithm that rewards joy more than it rewards D&D combat sucks for the 10,000th time? I find that pretty compelling. Thumbs up if you agree. And I swear I did not prompt these people to mention algorithms or discoverability. I said, I'm looking for less than 60-second vertical videos about how the TikTok ban would affect you and or your job specifically and or the D&D/RPG community. But this is what I got.
TikTok is insanely good at what we call discoverability, which is basically the creator term for when our content gets pushed to new audiences. Like people who don't already follow us are seeing our content. And that means that they might be seeing things about Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop games for the first time.
That algorithm allows my work to spread out to a wider audience, and it's a better discovery tool.
If it wasn't for TikTok 14 months ago, I wouldn't be working full-time as a content creator right now.
Really big YouTubers, like in the D&D space, that just wouldn't exist at all without TikTok. One Shot Questers, Monkey DM, Offbeat Outlaw, Steely Sam, all of those guys.
And Will also talked about how TikTok's fast-paced editing style has really influenced YouTube. We see that with Pointy Hat, Dungeon Dad, Deficient Master, and many more. But I think it's more than just creators and editing style moving from TikTok to YouTube. I think that algorithm has too. Last week I was in a panel giving advice about the YouTube algorithm with some other RPG creator pals, Professor DM and Baron DeRop, and play a quick game. Let's see if you can guess which one of these fine fellows is this video's sponsor. Okay, it's Baron DeRop, but you can see and potentially game with all three of us at Green Dragon Fest. Not a convention, a gathering, only about 50 tickets total, and only about 35 tickets remaining at the time of making this video, where you can enjoy a few days of playing various RPGs at the scenic Ancient Lore Village in Tennessee. It's like a cozier version of the other event where you play D&D in a cool location, and you get to hang out with a bunch of people you probably know. Professor DM, and I freaking love that picture. Dungeon Dad, Deficient Master, Kelsey Dione, creator of Shadowdark, Grace World Destroyer, and more. But just like that other event, Green Dragon Fest is a premier vacation experience, so keep that in mind when you check out the website, link below. So yes, algorithms. 5+ years ago, it was nigh impossible to stand out on YouTube, but TikTok was new, everybody had a shot, and TikTok may still be that way. I do not know. But I do know that discovery on YouTube has gotten way better over the last several years, as in, subscriptions seem less important now than ever. That is why a long-standing creator like How to Be a Great GM with over 200,000 subscribers still has to fight for views. Another example, I watch every single video posted by this funny man, so every time he posts a new video, it's always at the top of my recommendations, even though I'm not actually subscribed. I would, but I just subscribe to like D&D stuff here. And a much better example for actually making my point here, recently I've been captivated by this interesting fellow. And he only has a couple thousand subscribers, and I'm still not one of them. But when he posts a new video, it shows up in my feed, simply because the YouTube algorithm showed me one of them like a month ago, and I watched it all the way through. And TikTok works that way, not to graciously give new creators a chance, but because it statistically keeps viewers on the platform longer than recommending videos based on who they follow. So YouTube has been trying to copy that algorithm, and devaluing subscriptions. And I guess the reason I say all of that is to provide a silver lining. If TikTok is unplugged, at least this is the second best time in history to start a D&D YouTube channel. This is the part about luck. The number one best time was between 2015 and 2019, when here we go, Stranger Things was all the rage. To keep it brief, that excellent Netflix series reminded or showed hundreds of millions of people that D&D is fun. Plus, there happened to be this new 5th edition D&D, the easiest edition to learn since the 80s, plus a couple extremely talented professionals already making D&D videos and showing people how to play. That trifecta, rooted in Stranger Things, and really rooted in like the creation of D&D 50 years ago and war games and everything, we go back further and further. But really it is that incredible surge in D&D's popularity just in the last 10 years that gave us enough eyeballs watching YouTube videos about it for anyone to have this job. I consider that luck. And in a much, much smaller way, D&D content creation is kind of a grassroots version of that.
I am not on TikTok. I've never even opened the app. In fact, I'm a content creator on a rival platform. And while we are all in competition for a limited amount of viewer attention, having lots and lots of people create content for tabletop RPGs across a large spectrum of media, it raises the public's awareness. It creates a habit of people engaging with RPG content.
And despite TikTok creators not being able to make much money directly from ad revenue on the app, businesses still depend on it.
So aside from just the YouTube channel in general and obviously putting things on TikTok, I actually have a whole business or a subset of my business that I sell notebooks with. I sold $3,000 worth of D&D related products last year through TikTok. So that's $3,000 less I might make this year.
Imagine working for years to build a community and a small business so you can hold some vestigial hunk of the American dream in your hands, and then America deletes it. Or at least a piece of it. That just stinks. And this is where I see some similarity to the D&D open gaming license controversy of 2023. Short version, had D&D's owners changed the license as they wanted to and achieved their ideal outcome, they would be the one and only company able to publish fantasy D20 based RPG books and resources. Yes, preventing any huge competition or like AI takeover of what D&D is. That was kind of the argument on the face of it all. But caught in the crossfire, there were dozens of small RPG studios and thousands of independent writers, artists, editors, designers who wouldn't be able to make cool stuff. And the hobby would have been left this hollow husk of what it once was, with radically limited options for the community. Now, TikTok going away wouldn't squash creators altogether. They'd be able to try YouTube, and like we talked about, it could be the best time to try YouTube that we might ever see again for D&D YouTube, unless another Stranger Things comes along, who knows. But forcing that would probably create a bottleneck around what kinds of videos and creators are able to find success. It would be very similar to what already exists on YouTube, instead of what was happening on TikTok, where discoverability was key. D&D is for everyone, there's infinite ways to play, and it's important for people to see that.
And that means that they might be seeing things about Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop games for the first time. And they start to see people like me, people of color, women playing the game. They might see the comedy and storytelling aspects of it, new representation, APs that they didn't know existed. Plus, people are posting tips about the game and how to get into it for the first time, which lowers barriers. And TikTok is such a big part of casting that wide net and bringing new people into the hobby.
I say again, role-playing games are for everyone, and I think the world would be a happier place if more people played them. So we still don't know how this story will end, but at this time, I think it is crucial to take some advice from another friend of the channel, Sly Flourish, a content creator who's been doing it since blogs were cool. He often says to not let your happiness with RPGs be determined by any one company. You can play however you want. That is the unmatched beauty of tabletop role-playing games. You can play exactly as the book says. You can play with no books at all and everything in between. So speaking of books, Maybe check out this video summarizing all 30 RPGs I've played, or this video about playing D&D with a lot fewer rules to worry about. Thank you to my wonderful patrons, and keep building.